Hey guys, welcome to the Lifting Lindsay channel. I'm really excited to show you guys how I have been incorporating integrated partials into my hypertrophy training lately. This is something that I have really been enjoying. And I'm also using this as a progression technique too. So I'm going to go through what are integrated partials, why am I using these more and more in my hypertrophy programming, and how can we set up and get the most out of it, and what are some of the things that I'm seeing people do inaccurately in attempting to do more partial work directly for hypertrophy. So before we get started, I want to share a few things and make sure we're kind of on the same page here. So when it comes to working muscles, we can actually work them in a lengthened position, a mid position, or a shortened, more contracted position. So what exactly do I mean by that? Every single muscle can be lengthened out, and then as you go through a contraction, it begins to come together and to shorten. So for example, with the biceps, at the bottom of a bicep curl, the biceps are more lengthened there. And then as you go through that curl, you're contracting and you're working them and then more shortened in a more mid and then a more contracted shortened position. So this goes for all muscle groups. For example, glutes. If you really want to get the glutes in a very lengthened position, well, that's going to require hip flexion. So at the bottom of a squat or a leg press, that's where the glutes are going to be really lengthened. And then as you stand up, now those muscle fibers are kind of coming together and it's slowly contracting and shortening. Why do we care about this? Well, we are seeing in the literature that more hypertrophy is happening when not only we're working something in a lengthened position, but when it's more difficult or overloaded more in that lengthened position. So with that being said, what are integrated partials? Well, integrated partials, when done well, are going to be you getting the muscle into a lengthened position, overloading it there, and doing partial reps. So for example, here I'm showing you guys the leg press. I'm going all the way down. I do a partial rep and then I go all the way up. So that is an integrated partial. We're not just going down to the bottom and doing a bunch of partials. We are integrating more lengthened work into our sets. So that's where you get the integrated partials in those more lengthened positions. So here's another exercise where we're doing this. So most people don't realize that with bicep curls, just a regular bicep curl, you're standing there. Yes, at the bottom, your biceps are more lengthened, but it's not difficult there, right? The peak difficulty is at a mid position, not in that lengthened position. So with bicep curls, oftentimes I will see people doing a bunch of partials at the top. That's not going to be a really good hypertrophy strategy. If you're doing 21s and we're incorporating some of that for a more metabolic approach, that can work. But if the goal is optimizing hypertrophy outcomes, then what we want to do is make sure that the partials are happening in a more lengthened position and that it's more difficult there. I'm going to opt for using a preacher because at the bottom where the biceps are a little bit more lengthened is going to be more of that peak difficulty. So we could do integrated partials there. So here's a few others. This is a great option for your delts. If you put the pulley at hand height, that's going to make it more difficult at that bottom position where your delts are more lengthened. So doing some partials or integrated partials there is going to be very beneficial. Here's a look on how to kind of get relatively the same setup with dumbbells and an inclined bench. And we're just doing those partials down where the delts are more lengthened and where it's difficult. Now for quads, you can do this with a hack squat. It's something that I've been doing. It's really hard. Some people have reached out and are like, I really don't like doing this with the hack squat. I recently had a woman say, can I do this with the leg extension? Yes, you can. The problem with the leg extension is that it typically is more difficult at the top and not at the bottom. Maybe what you do instead of doing integrated partials with the leg extension, maybe you're just doing partials there. So maybe you do one set of 6 to 8 partials at the bottom and then go a little bit lighter and move into full range reps where you're doing 6 to 8 reps down there, 6 to 8 reps that are more of that full range. Another way that we can do this is with triceps. I mean, we can really do this with all muscles. I'm just walking you through a few that I have right now in my personal programming or on programming in my training app. So now I'm showing you the setup for triceps. This is an awesome one. Overhead tricep extension. And the pulley is going to be coming straight down and lined up straight down my back. And what that does is we're making the peak difficulty at that bottom position where we're doing some more of those integrated partials there. So I really, really love this. If you don't have a pulley system, this is a great option doing it unilaterally with just a dumbbell and doing some partials down there where it's more difficult. And this is an easy setup to use in the gym or at home if you don't have access to the pulleys. There's a few ways we can do this. I have seen people, and I've done this before, where maybe the first few weeks of a program are just regular full range motion reps. And then this third, fourth week, kind of as a progression, I'm adding in the integrated partial or just partials in the movement. So this is a great option for you if your goal is to maximize hypertrophy. As far as strength, I wouldn't necessarily say that this is a strength tactic. Now remember, hypertrophy and strength, there are some ties, but they are different things. And the way we train them is different. Hypertrophy is growing a muscle. Strength is how much weight can you move kind of thing. So if the goal is to really increase your strength, then you're going to want to work in the movement pattern that you want to see the strength increase in. But I will say this, I have had a few lifts that I've been struggling progressing in strength. And I did take some time to do some integrated partials. And then when I moved back to full range, I actually did feel, and this is just me speaking for myself, I did feel an increase in my overall strength. And so I was really, really, really excited about that. But typically, we do need to keep in mind that hypertrophy and strength, although there is some crossover, the training is usually a bit different. So this is more of a hypertrophy, tension-based type of approach. But personally, I did see it lend to some good outcomes in my strength, which I was really, really excited about. So hopefully this video really helped you out, gave you some new fun ideas and ways to get into the gym and work really, really hard. And maybe if there's a lift that you've been struggling with seeing progressions in, maybe this week you go in and you start incorporating more integrated partials. That way you can still kind of progress, even though the weight's not going up. And sometimes you'll notice that the weight actually comes down a little bit. And that's okay. With hypertrophy, we're really seeing that the intensity of the lift is really key and really important. That tension and time dedicated in those lengthened positions, making sure that there's a lot of work happening there, is lending to a lot of progression with hypertrophy, even if the weight comes down a little bit. So don't worry too much about that.